I'm Paul Moyer. It got wet all of a sudden here in the Southland today with a good chance of more rain on the way. The latest weather forecast tonight at 11 o'clock. Also, the Eastern Airlines jet that came in belly up when its landing gear failed in Miami tonight. Dr. William Rader continues his report on AIDS tonight. The gay community reacting with anger to that disease and a very personal look at that disease. The nation is ready to observe the 20th anniversary of the death of John F. Kennedy. A comment on that tonight from John Tunney and Bruce Hershenson. Plus the Lakers and Showtime back in high gear. The 11 o'clock news tonight. We'll see you then. A surprise storm soaks the Southland with more rain on the way for the weekend, and winter comes early to parts of the Midwest with heavy rains, high winds, and massive power problems.
This month marks the 20th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Tonight, John Tunney and Bruce Hershenson look back at the years of lightning, day of thunder. An Eastern Airlines jet makes an emergency landing tonight with a massive hydraulic failure, and Dr. William Rader continues his special report on the agony of AIDS.
Next on Eyewitness News. This is Channel 7, the #1 station for news and information in Southern California. And now the latest breaking Eyewitness News with Paul Moyer, Connie Schneider, Ted Dawson with sports, Johnny Mountain with the weather, and the Eyewitness News team.
Good evening, everybody. Here's the latest tonight at 11 o'clock. A week of treacherous rain has left 6 people dead or missing in Northern California tonight. And here in the Southland, a continuous mist is creating havoc. The big problem, slick highways. The result, a rash of fender benders and a number of serious accidents. This is the first real rain we've had in a while, and when the wet stuff combines with those surface road oils, it spells trouble. Police, of course, advising extreme caution tonight. In Chicago, a storm front there is battering that area with 16-foot waves, and along with that, heavy rains, winds, flooding, power outages, and in general, one soggy mess. As for the local weather outlook for the weekend, the complete forecast with Johnny Mountain a little later on in the program tonight. Johnny?
Well, Paul, it's been a night of terror for 156 people on board an Eastern Airlines jetliner that was forced to hit the skids in Florida, literally. After blowing a tire during takeoff, Flight 836 made an emergency landing just minutes later at Miami's International Airport. The huge 727 hit the runway belly up and then skidded off the landing strip in a fiery shower of sparks. The passengers and crew were quickly evacuated through emergency exits as crews hosed down the plane to prevent a fire. 24 people, though, were injured in the mishap. No one seriously hurt. Paul.
Tony, the recent events in Grenada and Lebanon dominated ceremonies marking America's traditional observance of Veterans Day today. At Arlington National Cemetery in the nation's capital, a wreath was laid on the tomb of the unknown soldier. Veterans Administrator Harry Walters headed the solemn salute. He said the sense of duty shown by our troops recently is new proof that the people of the United States are willing to defend their liberties. Southern California also paid tribute today to the millions of men and women who have valiantly defended our country in war and in peace. The largest ceremony took place at Riverside's National Cemetery, where members of various veterans groups took time to honor those Americans who have paid the supreme sacrifice. Tony?
Well, Paul, America also pauses this month to remember its 35th president, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, assassinated 20 years ago in Dallas. The very day after he was shot and killed, our own commentator Bruce Hershenson, then an accomplished filmmaker and staunch conservative, was asked by the government to write a movie that would help shape the world's opinion of the president. The film, Years of Lightning, Day of Drums, showed, among other things, President Kennedy's efforts to stem hunger and poverty in Latin America through the Alliance for Progress.
The citizens of Mexico and Central and South America were visited by the president as he brought the alliance to the doorstep of their countries.
Every one of us will go home with the most profound impression of what a strong, vital people can accomplish. Viva Costa Rica, Arriba Costa Rica, muchas gracias.
Wrote, directed, edited, and composed the music for this film, produced by the U.S. Information Agency, the federal government's public relations arm. No other USIA movie has ever been seen in this country. An exception was made for this one by a bipartisan act of Congress. It will be seen on KCET Channel 28 on Thursday, November 24th at 10 o'clock in the evening. Bruce Hershenson is here now in the studio with John Tunney, a former Democratic senator and member of the House who was Ted Kennedy's roommate in law school and is the godfather of Ted Kennedy's child. They will now look back on the Kennedy years. And Bruce, I'm going to address this first question to you, but perhaps both of you would like to answer it. Often when people die, especially a tragic death, their human failings, their fallacies somehow go away, and we don't look at them in a realistic light. Having to deal with President Kennedy's death so immediately thereafter, did you find that hard to deal with, Bruce, and do you think it's something that is still happening today, that we're making him more grand?
No, I think that the myth and the reality were very close, and I think if we look at him in the perspective of history and those events that came after his death, and we look backwards and try to judge his presidency, I think it stands up very well. I'm not so sure that it makes a great deal of difference to try to separate myth from reality. Myth sometimes is reality.
John Tunney, in light of the arms debate, Grenada, what's happened in Lebanon, the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, wasn't it? Okay.
1962.
62. How would we look upon that today? Would we look upon John Kennedy as being courageous and a hero, or a warmonger? And I know that's a difficult question.
Well, I think that we would look upon him as being very courageous. I think that we would look upon his restraint as the most important factor in what he did. He did challenge Khrushchev to remove the missiles from Cuba, and we have to remember that the United States at that time had a great preponderance of strategic power. But he also was prepared to ignore what Khrushchev had communicated to the United States and to send back a telex, if you will, a telegram suggesting that the Soviet Union was agreeing with the United States to remove those missiles. And I think that his restraint and his willingness to go more than halfway to accept Khrushchev's difficult position, the fact that he had some militarists in his society that were pushing him hard and never rubbing his nose in the dirt, really gave him a class and gave him a stature that made it possible not only to get the Soviets to remove the missiles.
Tomorrow, Greece, as Eye on LA takes you around the world in 8 days.
Eyewitness News, the latest update from the Southland's #1 news team.
Jerry's back Monday at 4.